Today, I want to talk to you about the book, The Power of Habit. Um, I think it was a really good book because it taught me a lot about what it means to have habits. I think most of the time when you say to someone habits, you think of bad habits, smoking, overeating, gambling. But, habits are something that we do everyday life. I use the example in my post about when I go to the gym. In fact, today I used this habit. Um, I wasn't sure if I brought my keys um, to my locker, and the locker, key also has my gym card on it, and I don't really have to think about it because I'm confident in my habits now. Uh, Before I read this book, I wasn't. Um, I didn't rely on them as much. But as much as we know about our bad habits, we can also rely on our good ones, and it's a good thing. The book also talks about changing bad habits. Identifying what your habits are the first step in changing them. And he identifies basically that every habit has four components: the cue, the routine, the reward, and the craving. The cue is what triggers the routine. The routine is what the habit is. The reward is what you get from it, and the craving is your desire for the reward. It's pretty simple to understand, um, not so easy to see in your life. And I think he talks about it in his video and in the book. He does definitely gives plenty of examples because habits come in so many different varieties that it's hard to just describe one way of describing a habit. It's just, there are routines that are simple, routines that are complex. Cues come in. He lists about 5 different cues that you have to go through and figure them out. And so it's complex, but it's simple too. So it's a great book. It definitely helped me understand human behavior better. It's entertaining. It talked about the civil rights movement, which I did not expect, and um, illuminated a lot of different aspects of human behavior. So I definitely highly recommend the book.
Imagine for a moment that you have a habit that you really want to change. Let's say, for instance, you go up to the cafeteria every afternoon and you eat a chocolate chip cookie. This habit has caused you to gain a little bit of weight. In fact, this habit has caused you to gain exactly 8 pounds, and your wife has started making some pointed comments. And when I say you, what I really mean is me, because this is a habit that I had that I just couldn't kick. To understand why that habit was so powerful and what it would take to change it, I had to learn how habits work. Every habit functions the same way. At first, there's a cue, some type of trigger that makes the behavior unfold automatically. Studies tell us that a cue can be a location, a time of day, a certain emotional state, other people, or just a pattern of behaviors that consistently triggers a certain routine. To figure out the cue for my craving, I spent a few days tracking exactly when the urge to eat a cookie hit. And what I noticed pretty soon was something interesting. The cookie craving always hit about between 3 o'clock and 3:30 in the afternoon. That was my cue. It was a certain time of day. The next part in the habit loop is the routine, the behavior itself. And for me, that was pretty easy to figure out. Every day between 3 and 3:30, I'd get this craving for a cookie. I'd get up out of my chair. I'd walk over to the elevator. I'd take the elevator up to the 14th floor. I'd get out. I'd buy a cookie, and then I would eat it while talking to my colleagues in the cafeteria. The last part of the habit loop is the reward. And in some respects, the reward is the most important part because that's why habits exist, so that we can get the rewards that we want. But figuring out a reward is kind of tricky. To figure out what reward was driving my habit, I did a little bit of an experiment. One day when the cookie urge struck, instead of going up to the cafeteria, I went outside and I took a walk around the block. Then the next day, I went up to the cafeteria, but instead of buying a cookie, I got a candy bar and then ate it at my desk. And then the day after that, I went up to the cafeteria again, but I didn't buy anything. Instead, I just talked to friends for about 10 minutes. You get the idea. What I was trying to do was test different hypotheses to figure out what reward I was actually craving. And what I figured out pretty quickly was it had nothing to do with cookies. It had to do with socializing. Nowadays what happens is at about 3:30 in the afternoon, I absentmindedly stand up, I look around the office, I see a friend, I'll walk over and we'll gossip for 10 minutes and then I'll go back to my desk. The urge to go get a cookie has completely disappeared. The new behavior has become a habit, and I've lost about 12 pounds as a result. Studies have shown that if you can diagnose your habits, you can change them in whichever way you want. So what are the cues, routines, and rewards in your life? What habit do you want to change? The Power of Habit. Why we do what we do in life and business. Learn more at thepowerofhabit.com.
I think obviously this is not a book for everybody. I tend to like drier scientific looks at the world, and that's not for everyone. The thing is, it's what I like, and I figure I'm not the only one. So, if you're kind of nerdy and you like scientific research and you like, a different take on psychology, that, this isn't a self-help book. It can definitely help you figure out your habits and, change them if that's what you want. Or you can just learn about habits in general because we all have them and you might not be looking to change anything. Like I said, when I got this book, I had already started changing my life by starting a workout routine. And, as I was reading the book, I just started to see what they were saying is true, because it was true in my life. And, they started talking about the neurology of habits and habit forming. The way they talk about it is like water, forming a groove in your brain, so to speak. When you have certain neuronal pathways in your brain that are active, they become stronger. And the more you do a certain action, the better you get at it. I think that's understood. Habits. Habits are both good and bad. They mention in the book that your brain doesn't know the difference between a good habit and a bad habit. It just does what you do. You become what you do. And so be careful what you do. It's a cautionary tale, but it's definitely got lots of stories and anecdotes about people who have used the power of habit to, say, grow their church, or to get legislation passed, or to sell a product. It's they talk about training employees. I think one of the focuses of the book is on habits in the workplace. So, I think that's interesting. So it is definitely, not a self-help book. I happen to loathe self-help books now. I've read my share of them. Don't get me wrong. I've always, championed self-improvement. It's on my on my library shelf. There are tons of self-help books, but what I've come to realize is that they all say the same thing. They really do, and they just say it in different ways for different people, and hopefully, like, some of them stick for some people, but they usually just don't give you any new information. This book is going to give you some new information, because it's something I read a lot, and it's not something I've run into frequently. I mean, some of the ideas are well-read ideas, things that you're going to find in a lot of different places. A lot of what is in here is fresh, at least to me, and so yeah, it's nice. I'd recommend it.